Dover Athletic have been the focus of a few different experiment videos during my time here on YouTube, and after their relegation unjustly last year, after a points deduction for refusing to spend beyond their means, I've decided to give them £1 billion. Yes, £999,999,999 to be precise. I'm going to join you a year down the line. How is this team going to do in the Vanarama National League South? Shall we find out together? I'm going to resign. It's what I do best. Let's run the intro. I'll see you at the end of Season 1. Now, I'm a little bit concerned here because I did give them £1 billion, and in fact, they've now got even more money in the bank, and yet they've avoided the drop, I think, by one place. Yeah, they've avoided the drop by goals scored. They scored 49 goals. Tunbridge scored 43. They had the exact same goal difference and points. And, well, despite me giving them all that money, despite them now having a value of 209 million, they've only just avoided the drop. I want to sit here and say they spent the big bucks. They brought in James Daly from, who do they sign him from? From Woking for £17,000. And in fact, he hasn't played for them yet. In fact, looking at things here, they signed him at the end of May. And they also signed Oliver Patrick at the end of May. Looking at things, they didn't spend any money this season. This experiment is not off to the best of starts. I mean, hopefully they stay up Season 2. If they get relegated, it's going to be awkward. Season 2, not gone much better. They're in 17th. Now, of course, in Football Manager, the game doesn't really know what to do when you give a non-league club £1 billion. And I feel like we're seeing that on display here. Apparently, they've made another £3 million this year. And, well, they have got a new key player in Lewis Brown. He played 37 games for them. 6.96 average rating. They signed him on a free. I know what you're thinking. Did they spend any money? Good news. Tyler Cordner signed. How much for? £10,000. A massive overpay, but the man did get 5 player of the matches as a centre-back, so he wasn't that bad for them. And in fact, I've spotted here, Jamie Cook has joined the club only recently. I don't think he's yet played for the team. They've got all these players in, and so far, I'm suitably underwhelmed. Doesn't look like they've invested any money into the facilities or recruitment yet, but worth noting, their media prediction was 8th. If you're sat here now watching the video, clearly something interesting happened. Speaking of which, let's go to Season 3. Okay, look, I decided to go forward 2 seasons. My impatience got the better of me. Good news, Dover have won the league. They have been promoted from the Vanarama National League South. It only took 4 years. And they got 100 points, finished ahead of Boreham Wood, and ultimately got promoted. Second top goal scorer in the league was their man, Will Lancashire, who they are paying, how much are they? £2,500 a week. That's quite a lot of money. And when you look at salaries per year, Dover are actually starting to spend that billion now. Their wage budget is 4 times higher than the next highest team. They have bought themselves their first league title. Josh Osterfield had the highest average rating in the entire league. This man rocking it out at centre mid on £2,500 a week. 19 assists. That is not too shabby. Have they changed manager in this time? I mean, yeah, you can see here. They've changed manager a little bit. Grant Bassey has been the manager for the last few seasons. The Welshman doing quite well since his addition. If you were wondering what happened that previous season, they lost in the playoffs after finishing 4th. In the first round of the playoffs, mind you, it was not a good season. Now, interesting to note, Dover did have a changing of owners. Of course, all the funds in the club stay in the club. As a result, Macaulay Francis, who's come in as a local businessman, has inherited a business with £1 billion in the bank. No idea how he's managed to afford that. We won't question it. Either way, they have got promoted finally at the Vanarama National League South. If I'm not mistaken, their wages are already the highest in the league above, so I'm expecting back-to-back promotions. Let's go see how they got on. So after promotion last year, Dover finished 2nd in the Vanarama National League, but, and it's a rather big but, they lost to Southend. In a battle of the coastal towns, Dover came out second best. They lost 2-0 in this game, and, well, looking at the stats, they were very much second best. The big addition to Dover's team for this year was Mungo Bridge. Fantastic name, Mungo. Fantastic head of hair as well. This man joined on £7,500 a week. They signed him for £13,000 from League One. That's pretty impressive what money can get you. And in fact, just looking at their team and their wages, Callum Maycock is on £28,000 a week. That's bonkers. Jonathan Lecco is on £22,000 a week. Now, the bizarre thing here is the Vanarama National League doesn't have like a wage cap or anything. I think League 2 does. I have a feeling that if Dover get promoted, they're going to run into some financial fair play issues. Hadn't really thought about that before setting this all up. If you were wondering, how's the money in the bank looking? Well, despite all the money they're spending, they actually still have over £1 billion. We've been going into the future now for, I think, 5 seasons. They've not yet spent all the money. We could be here for a while, this video. Grant Bassey is still manager. He's been at the club for 5 years. He's been doing rather well, as have Dover. Having lost in the playoff final, maybe they can go that one step further. Given the fact they're not spending their money all that quickly, I'm going to join you in 3 seasons' time. Dover Athletic, where are you going to be? Let's go find out. I've gone forward 3 years and absolute madness has happened. Mungo Bridge is now club captain. Oakley Booth is considered their key player. And most importantly, they're in League 1. That's right, after losing the playoff the previous season, Dover took it personally. They won the league. The Vanarama National League secured in the 27-28 year. And then just a season later, first season in League 2, they got promoted again on 80 points. They are cruising away, and good news, the bank balance is starting to deplete, and also, they have actually upgraded their facilities. I did question whether or not they might just leave everything at potato level. It is actually getting a little bit better. Now, I did just want to check this because I figured it might be the case. The club has failed League 2 fair play regulations and League 1 financial fair play regulations. Not great. Now, these financial rules relate to wage budget versus turnover, and I believe you get docked points and potentially transfer embargoed if these things happen, but presumably because they've got so much money, they're just able to spend the money anyway. It does look like, for the most part, they have been relying on free transfers. In fact, the year they were promoted out of League 2, they didn't sign anyone, so presumably they had a transfer embargo all year, but during their year in the National League, where they spent £100,000 on Jamie Robson. It turns out that they got all their League 2 signings sorted before the restrictions came in place. Interesting to note, Oakley Booth is on £23,000 a week. The next highest earner is on £13,000, so clearly they are adjusting the wages that they offer to their players because of the financial fair play stuff going on. But nevertheless, their wages are rather ridiculous on a lot of these players, and I've just noticed Mungo Bridge, club legend, Hall of Famer, signed back when they're in the Vanarama National League. He is about to run down his contract in 17 days despite being club captain. Now, worth noting, Grant Bassey sacked as manager a few years ago now, and since then, Mickey Mellon, fantastic name, Mickey Mellon, he has been in charge, and he is the man who's got them back-to-back promotions, and in their first year in League 1, have a gander. He has managed to get them to avoid the drop by a singular point, despite having the second worst goal difference in the league. Now, you can see here, looking at the wages per year, Dover, despite scraping safety, they still have the third highest wages in the entire league. Somewhat unsurprisingly, League 1 is that level where championship teams come down with significant sums of money, and, by comparison, Dover just can't quite compete, despite being the only rich team in the league. Now, Oakley Booth is their current key man. He was signed when they were in the Vanarama National. He has been absolutely imperative to their success. He's also won £23,000 for the next year. Going to be interesting to see if he is still at the club, as we're going to go forward a further 2 years to 2032. 10 years into the future, are Dover still going to be in League 1? Could they challenge for the championship? Will they have failed more financial fair play? Let's go find out, shall we? You leave for 2 years, weird stuff happens. Solskjaer is Dover manager. They're in League 2, ladies and gentlemen. So having stayed up narrowly that previous season by 1 point, they couldn't do it twice. This time, 45 points and finishing 23rd. But if you do want to look at a silver lining, they have bounced back from League 2 immediately, finishing second behind Crewe. And Solskjaer is their manager, and Oakley Booth still at the club, so that's nice. I will say, they did okay in League 1 for a couple of years, but this year they did fail financial fair play in League 2. Doesn't look like it impacted their ability to sign players too much, but yeah, certainly not an ideal situation for them to keep failing financial fair play. You'd think they'd look at the money in the bank and realise it's fine. Now, somewhat unsurprisingly, compared to other League Two clubs, they've got a lot more money. 3 times higher wages than the next highest team in Oxford. And yeah, they've got a lot of money still. I mean, I gave them £1 billion. It'd be concerning if they burnt through that in 10 years. Now, fair play to Solskjaer here. He was sacked as QPR manager. He came to Dover and he got League Two Manager of the Year as he guided them to promotion. So give Solskjaer some credit. In Solskjaer we trust. How much money is he on a week? £4,500. At this level, that's a lot of money. Just looking at their player wages, Oakley Booth has taken a massive wage cut down to £11,000. That is fair play of him. Charlie Jones, first real proper regen they've had of note, looks very, very good. They got him on a free transfer from Man City. He is currently on £16,000 a week. He's also worth 2 to 6 million, which at League Two level is rather good. And here on the club history screen, you can see the journey so far. It's not been a straightforward path. It's not been plain sailing just yet, but they're back in League One. And I'll be honest, I thought they'd rocket up the leagues more than they have. Now, given the fact they've got £950 million in the bank, it's only right that we do a few more seasons of this. So expect at least a part 2, maybe a part 3. We'll see where Dover get up to. Once I do finish this Football Manager experiment, I will make all the save games downloadable in the final parts description. So if you want to take over Dover at different parts in this experiment, you will be able to do that. If you've got any feedback for this video in terms of the pacing, stuff that I included, stuff that maybe I didn't talk about that you'd like me to talk about, let me know it down in the comments and I will endeavour to implement that into episode number 2. Besides that, if you're new to the channel, make sure to be subscribed. From me, Ollie, I'm Jack, he's Ollie. From me, Jack, and Ollie, I've completely ruined the outro and yet I want to keep this in. I'll see you for part 2 very soon. Until then, take it easy. I'm out.